So now gently bring your attention back to the moment, allowing yourself to be fully present in heart, mind, body, and spirit, so that we can each be the instruments that the universe made us to be, to make a difference in the world, to be a healing presence. So gently and slowly, when you are ready, bring yourself back, and if you wish, you may open your eyes. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Center for Spiritual Living, Morristown. I am the spiritual director, Frankie. If you don't know me, that means you might be here for the first time. And we're so glad that you found your way here, because what we are about is creating a world that works for everyone, based on our spiritual teaching called the Science of Mind, which means that no matter where you come from, what's happened to you, what's going on in the world, you are here to be most true to yourself, your essence, your spirit, and to find avenues to be in service with that. I'm totally distracted because Superman is in the house. He's sleeping. He must have been working really hard last night. A lot of work to do. That's wonderful. All right. So what we do at our center is always, often, as much as we can, for ourselves, for each other, when there has been a request, affirmative prayer, which is our word for spiritual mind treatment, or spiritual mind treatment is our word for affirmative prayer. So close your eyes and just hear these words as your deepest truth, now coming to the surface of your consciousness, becoming activated by means of you as an individualized expression of the One. So here and now there is one breath, one heartbeat, one life. This life is God's life, or Spirit's life, or the universal life, or love's life, whatever we choose to call it. And this life is perfect. And so at the essence of our being, we experience this divine perfection that is pure love, pure grace, pure joy, pure peace, and pure harmony. We open to receive it, each of us in our own way, so that we can give it away, so that we can share it. And it is in sharing it that we do our part in being a healing presence in the world. I trust and know that each of us is nourished today at such a deep level that there is a remembrance of this truth, and it is activated in a new way. That we are blessed to be in service to humanity with this open-heartedness, with this remembrance of the truth, with this guidance of divine principle, and with joy and gratitude always and in all ways. So with gratitude then, we give thanks for our time together, for how we show up in the world, for how our consciousness is purified by means of truth, and how we get to be in community, perfectly safe, perfectly remembering our wholeness, and perfectly knowing that divine right action is taking place, regardless of what the world tells us, and so it is. So we have this beautiful fountain that was donated by Andrew and Stephanie. Isn't that glorious? Yeah, thank you so much. It's so beautiful. So it's all about the flow. The wonderful Irene Avlonitis is assisting me today, and you already heard that all the music is my choice today. Sharing with you about once a month some of my favorite music, and that was from the CD Sacred by Lisa Ferraro and Etika Luckett. And Etika is an amazing musician who made her transition this week after 7 years of an illness, and she was completely at peace, completely free, completely ready to go, and completely blessed in the presence of her beloved Lisa, her family and friends, and the entire New Thought community that knows and loves her, of course, in spirit. Etika has been one of the beautiful performers at one of our conferences, so you get to share in her music today. So, I have a few things to say. First of all, I occasionally watch the news because I think it's important to know what's going on. We seem to live in a world that seems to be getting more violent. It isn't by statistics. We seem to live in a world where we hear about massacres, killings, bombings on a daily basis. And we live in a world where people are feeling traumatized. I'm sure some of you are here today with that feeling of, oh my God. So there's good news and bad news. The bad news is it's not going to get better. It's not going to go away. That's what it means to be in the world. That's what it means to look at the news. That's what it means to be in the world today, especially in the divided world. And we can point to our president, we can point to politics, but we know in our teaching that it is much deeper than that. That we each have a responsibility, as much as we don't want to hear that. We each have a responsibility because there's one life, one world. And the most important thing for us to do is to turn back to the truth, because principle is never bound by precedent, and we never abandon principle, ever, no matter what is happening in your personal life or in the world. I am aware, however, that that's very traumatic. And we're not that unique in that. There's places in the world that experience it on a daily basis, and much worse. So what do we do with that if we're on a spiritual path? Well, that's really what I want to talk about today, and I want to talk about what our spiritual responsibility is. If we call ourselves spiritual being, if we're members of a spiritual community, if we are on a spiritual path, if we do spiritual practices and we read spiritual books, that means that we have a responsibility. And so, how do I talk about prosperity, abundance, and wealth today, which is the theme for the month, and what I've been talking about all month, if we look at the news and say, well, yeah, we're not going to talk about this? Well, it's because they're not separate. Because wealth, abundance, and prosperity is not just about our possessions. It's not just about stuff. It's not just, once I feel abundant, once I have a relationship, once I'm healthy, once my family and friends are healthy, once I have money, then everything's going to be okay. No, it's okay right here, right now. It is in knowing that and recognizing that we are in service to the world in a whole different way. And so, broken hearts, I hope there are a few in this room, because it's a good sign. When your heart is broken, it is open. And when your heart is open, the love, the wisdom, the clarity can freely flow in and out. So that's the message today. When we are open-hearted, we can not only be instruments of love, but we can receive that which the universe is forever giving us, and we can use it in a way that serves not only us, but all of humanity. And so this whole celebration today is all about remembering the sacred, surrendering to the truth within, and then putting that into action in our own world. Life is both a burden and a gift. Life is both heartbreaking and heart-opening. Life is both a tragedy and a privilege. We cannot go through life and say, all of my life is about is to let go of the burdens, leave them behind, and move into all the joy and the celebration. It doesn't work that way. We don't arrive at that place. But to hold both from a place of the sacred, to not judge either one of them as good, bad, bad, good, but to hold both and to know that as they become one, there is something for each of us to live from a higher perspective. We are here to have a vision for the world that serves our highest integrity, our highest awareness of who and what we are, our highest desire for the world. We're here to hold that vision so clearly, so powerfully, so effortlessly that everything else falls away. And if it doesn't fall away, then that is our work to transform within our own consciousness. We're here to see that world that works for everyone. We're here to see a world of peace. And when we're here to see the world of peace, some stuff has got to go. You got to go, let go of your resentment to Uncle Joe that abused you at age 10. You got to let go of any resentment of anyone alive today. You have to let go of all those fears and anxieties and worries because they don't have a place in a consciousness of peace. So we each get to go deeper in the awareness that peace is an instrument, that we are instruments of peace, and we can't bring it if we don't hold it, if we don't carry it. And so we're here to be those instruments. And what does that mean? You might be sitting here going, oy vey, I got some work cut out for me, and I don't know if I can do it in this lifetime. It's okay, just do it. And trust and surrender the rest. So, we know in our teaching, and this might be hard for you all to hear today, it's hard for me to hear. There's a part of me going, don't talk about that, don't like it. But this is the truth. This is the truth. It means that what we see out here is a reflection of what's going on in here. Maybe not consciously, but we have to accept that the world that we see is a reflection of the world that we be on the inside. And so that's where the healing work is done, and it must be done with love. So that means that we have to look for the love. I love the story of Mr. Rogers when he was a little boy and went to his mama when the sad news was on the radio or on TV. And what did his mother say? Look for the helpers. Look for the helpers. What are you looking at? What are you focused on? What are you being in the world? There's always someone serving. There's always someone giving. There's always someone helping. One of my favorite things when there is tragedy in the world is to turn on the TV and look for those stories where there is one person that is at peace, that is in service to humanity, that is giving, that is loving, that is not standing in judgment, but truly being of service to humanity with a loving heart. And there's always something to do, right? There's always a way to help. I know that when I'm sitting and I'm watching TV and I'm watching tragedy, there's many directions that my mind can go into. Probably a little bit of what each of you experience and then some. And then when I do that, I breathe and I feel my heart and I sob and I scream and I yell and then I have to take a nap and then I wake up and then I have to treat and then I have to meditate and then I have to choose the place I'm going to stand in or stand as in order to make a difference and to be a healing presence in the world. For me, that is to sit and treat, which I did about 2 hours yesterday. Some of you complain about having to write a treatment in class. Get over it. Treat. Sit and treat. That's what we do. Spiritual mind treatment, our word for affirmative prayer. That's what changes consciousness. So I sat and treated for a few hours, just knowing that peace is possible. Even though I can't see it in this moment, it is possible. And I am the instrument for divine peace. And because there's only one mind, and this mind is connected to all of life, there can only be that. And so on and so on. So it just simply means that when we're witnessing tragedy, that we're called to shift our consciousness and know the truth, that we're called to be the helpers, that we're called to knock on our neighbor's door and say, are you okay? Do you need anything? Can I make you a cup of tea? Because I know the news must have shocked you as well. It means that we then become extra kind to those who serve us. I have a favorite gas station guy right now. He's on Route 22 at Sunoco, or as Norman says, Sunoco. I don't know which is the right way to say it, but we always say tomato, tomato. And I always greet him. I'm always happy to see him. We're always friendly to each other, but I never asked his name. So I made a point the other night, it was late, I was tired, to talk to him. So I said to him, what is your name? He says, honey. He had to say it about 10 times. Honey, what is your name? Frankie. Huh? Frankie. Where you from? New Brunswick. Why you here? I work in Morristown. Where do you live? Somerville. I have wife, 2 children. You? Children? No children. No children? Where are you from, honey? I'm from India. I'm thinking, here's an adult male working at a gas station at 10:30 at night with a wife at home and 2 children, maybe making, $10 an hour? And an opportunity to have a connection, to have an exchange. And now I have a new friend, my friend Hani. And I'm going to make a point of it to even go there more often, even though it's out of my way. And so those are just the little things that we can do, right? I'm not bragging. I'm just saying we have so many opportunities to make peace with another human being and to make a difference and to be a loving presence. So, what is yours? I know already that you, because you're part of this community, because you're interested in this kind of teaching, because you're exposed to spirituality, are in service to that, or at least consciously aware of it all the time. So you are the helpers. I know you are the helpers. I know you each make a difference in somebody's life every single day. I think it's always important to remember that, because we have a tendency in this teaching to focus on the negative, to look at what we don't have enough of yet, what we don't do enough of yet, what we are not enough of yet. But I think, and maybe some of that is my fault, but I think it's important for us to remember how much we already do, already give, already love, already heal, already have healed, and to savor that and to feel the gratitude and the joy in that. So we get to use our gifts. Today, what I want to wrap this month up with is to remember that giving and receiving are one. They are 2 sides of the same thing. My teacher used to say the dictionary should have giving, receiving as one word. Receiving, giving as one word. They have to be in symbiosis in order for us to really feel the blessing of giving and receiving, of receiving and giving. We live in a culture where we're asked to give. We're asked to do a lot, right? It's always like we always have to give more, do more. It's easier for most people to give than it is to receive. And it doesn't work, because when they're not congruent, there is a missing link. And we end up experiencing the result of that. So the idea is then for us to think about, how can I bring balance to my giving, receiving? How can I bring greater clarity? Where do I need to look in my life and see whether I give more than I receive? And how can I be more receiving? And it always starts in our spiritual practices. It starts with knowing that we're on the receiving end of the divine, of divine abundance. And do we receive that? I think that's where we get caught. That we live in an infinitely abundant universe that is forever giving, but we say, no, thank you. It's too much. I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. Or we focus on getting it from somewhere else. And so we get to think about abundance, tangible and intangible, and then we get to think about, what do I believe about that? What do I believe about abundance? What I believe that abundance is my inherent birthright. It's the truth of my very being. Because what I believe about it, it becomes my experience. So in order for me to change my experience, I have to go back to the belief. And then I have to receive and practice receiving from an infinitely abundant universe that is ever giving of itself. So that means that we have to be more generous of spirit. That means that we have to notice where we are generous of spirit without doing anything, without saying anything, without giving anything. We have to just connect with this. How am I generous of spirit? How am I generous of spirit? Where? When? And then we begin to look at arriving there and living from that place. And then there's 4 things that we can do with total simplicity because we already know how to do it. We're just remembering. The first one is we have to accept what is. We have to accept what is, which is a way of being receptive to the universal essence within ourselves. To accept what is, to not deny it. So to accept that you might be having an issue with your past, to accept that you are blessed beyond measure, to accept that you are lonely or afraid or anxious, to accept that you feel joy regardless of what's happening in the world. It's in all areas to really practice acceptance. This is what's happening with me. This is what I'm feeling, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I'm experiencing, which is a way of being generous of spirit with yourself. And then maybe you will notice where you're not very accepting. And that just tells you what your spiritual practice is. The next thing is to practice gratitude. And I talked about gratitude a lot this month because I'm not going to say much about it. But to me, it's common sense. Every morning when I wake up and every night when I go to sleep, I do a gratitude practice. And I'm grateful for everything that I can possibly think of. At night, it's really great because it puts me to sleep. In the morning, it's really great because it sets the tone for my day. And then we have to take a look and see where we are ungrateful. The wealthiest nation on the planet. And most of us are some kind of hoarder, just admit it. That's a symptom of not being grateful. So take a look where you're not feeling grateful. And see if you can find something in there to be grateful for so that it can shift. And then there's generosity. Asking ourselves, how can we be more generous? Not in doing and giving, but in being. How can I be more generous with my fellow human beings, even the ones I hate? How can I be more generous of spirit with those who suffer? How can I be more generous of spirit with those that I already love and have wonderful relationships with? Because I know that when I'm not being generous of spirit, I am withholding the true natural generosity of my heart. And when I withhold, I suffer. And so does the rest of humanity. And then the last one is surrender. So we practice surrendering the rest to spirit, universe, God, divine love, and we trust that it will take care of it and return it to me not void because of my state of surrender. So I have a wonderful story about how resistant we are at times to change. How resistant we can be to change our mindset from not being generous to being generous, not being thankful to being thankful, not being accepting to being accepting. Because we just need some levity right now. So, one night, there was a fire at a convent, and several nuns who lived on the 4th floor were trapped. They were praying for divine providence to show them a way out of the fire when one of the sisters screams, "I have an idea. We just take off our clothes, our robes, we tie them together, and we climb down for safety." Great idea, right? Later, as they were recounting the event to reporters, they were asked if they were afraid that the crude rope might not hold up. Oh no, they said. Old habits are hard to break. Have you noticed how hard it is to break a habit? How as human beings we're so set in our ways? I want you all to try something when you go to bed tonight. I want you to brush your teeth with your opposite hand, with your non-dominant hand, and see what it feels like to change a habit. It's the same in consciousness. So play with it and have fun with it. Ernest Holmes says this, and I don't know why I taped it this way, but I did. It is the nature of the universe to give us what we are able to take. It is the nature of the universe to give us what we are able to take. It cannot give us more. Impossible. It has given all. We have not yet accepted the greater gift. The other quote by Ernest Holmes that I really love is this one. It's impossible for you to receive that which your mind refuses to accept. If you desire to receive more, you need to consciously develop the ability to mentally encompass it. You make your life mean little and limit its possibilities when you refuse to accept the whole gift of God. And so we get to change our habits of gratitude, acceptance, generosity, and surrender. In the context that life sometimes is a huge burden and sometimes a great joy. And they're both real. They're both important as a part of the human experience. And they're both there for us to check in and see where we stand, and to see if we want to stand there and experience the result of that stance, or offer something different. So we do this, and then we keep surrendering. I love the sayings in 12-step programs, let go and let God. Such a simple mantra, right? Just let go and let God. But don't stop there. Take that state of surrender as a way to have a deeper faith. To trust that even though it doesn't look that way, divine right action is taking place. This isn't the end. There's more. And my contribution, your contribution, becomes our consciousness. To receive the good, to look for the helpers, to be instruments of divine love, and to trust. To really trust the universe. That's a way to allow prosperity, abundance, and wealth to come alive in us, as us, and through us. And to allow any blockage to be dissolved and to heal what wants to be healed. And so, as we witness tragedy after tragedy after tragedy, knowing that tragedies will always be a part of this human experience, we get to remember to stand in the middle of the seesaw, to make sure that you are balanced in the giving, receiving, that you're balanced in your spiritual practices, that you're balanced in your strength and in your faith, that you're balanced in what and who you trust, hopefully the source. And that there is something that wants to be healed within so that we can bring that consciousness into the world and be instruments for peace, for wholeness, and for healing for everyone. Everyone. We can't have the luxury to exclude anyone, not even the ones we hate, don't like, don't care for, judge negatively. This teaching is about standing in the absolute and letting the relative reflect it. And so it is.
There we are. And so instead of doing our one power practice, we're going to take you through a guided meditation right now. So I invite you to close your eyes. Find comfort where you are, right? In your I have a reading from the Little Book of Awakenings to share with you. In a burst of oneness, when wax and wick work best, light and heat are all that's left. Like a candle, our wick of spirit is encased in our humanity, and when our spirit is touched, we light up until all we know melts and changes shape for the burn of our experience. Repeatedly, our sweat and struggle burns our sense of self and world away, so that our divine spark can be released again and again and again. These moments of spirit lighting up, not only rearrange our lives, but they light and warm those who stay near. In such moments, we become one with what we see, and this sudden oneness is what the faithful of all paths have called love. And in the illumination of oneness called love, all that's left is a willingness towards birth, an urge to be touched by something timeless and fresh. All that's left is a want of deep hearts in strangers, to relish the waking over being awake, the burning over being burned, and the loving over being loved. When we can be, no matter how briefly, at one with what we have in common with all life, we are rewarded beyond attachment and ownership. This is the difference between becoming a singer and becoming the song. This is the best of ambition, that the dancer melts into the dance and the lover melts into the act of love, and the builder melts into the thing being built, until, in a burst of oneness, dancer, lover, and builder are one.
Oh, thank you, Irene. So, I want you to know that we have some things happening here today. The beautiful Sharon McCready's is offering a vision boarding workshop. So you're going to create a vision board and have a lot of fun. It's from 1 to 3 with a $5 donation. Right after celebration, we're doing part 2 of the team that's doing some building and grounds chores. So if you feel like being a helper today, we welcome your support. I also want you to know that we have an event here that happens once a year. I'm part of the Morris County Clergy Association, and once a year we have the breakfast here. It's going to be, momentarily I forgot the date. 4 or 6 plus 14, the 20th. So it's the 20th, and if anybody wants to help me set up the breakfast and help set up and clean up, that would be wonderful. And I also want you to know that we have a workshop coming up on the 7th. That is a very powerful workshop by Bianca Godoy, who is a wonderful teacher of Qigong. So if you want to know more about that, she explains everything on the flyer. I'm going away on Wednesday to the Parliament of World Religions in Toronto, which has been a dream of mine for a long time, to be with many, many people from many, many different religious and spiritual traditions. So John and Lucy are going to do this celebration next week. And when I come back, 2 days after I come back, we have a retreat here, a one-day retreat. We need, I would say, a minimum of 10 people, 10 to 15 people to sign up in order for this retreat to happen. That is not so yet. So if you want to come to the retreat, please sign up so that we know you're coming and I have some time to prepare somewhere in there. And we're going to have a lot of fun on the retreat. It's really a wonderful day to just reset and remember who you really are. So let's do a healing treatment in closing. So right here, right now, that we've all been juiced up with spiritual wisdom, with remembering the truth of our very being, with opening our hearts and our minds to science of mind wisdom, and trusting that at the source of all life there is a powerful principle that is always operating. This principle is pure love. It is divine wisdom. It is infinite grace. It is everywhere present in everyone, everything, all the time. And each of us has a wonderful opportunity every day to not only remember this, but to live it. To have compassion for humanity, because we all fall into forgetfulness. And when we remember the truth of our very being, there is a ripple effect that takes place that we may not always see and understand. But it's a ripple effect that takes place that allows for healing to take place on this planet. We extend our love and our faith and our trust to anyone on this planet that is suffering today for whatever reason. And we are the messengers of hope. A messenger of hope because we have the capacity to expand our hearts with love, trust, surrender, faith, acceptance, and generosity of spirit. We decide today to let go of anything that no longer serves us, to surrender it on the altar of love, and to let the universal law dissolve it and transform it into good. All that's left is to be deeply grateful and to trust and know that no matter what is happening in the world, in spirit, in truth, all is well, and so it is. Have a great day and a great week, everybody.